The morning Marcus Williams knelt in front of a Bentley with a mop in his hands. He never imagined that by afternoon, a woman in a $2,000 suit would be on her knees in front of him, begging him to marry her. The humid Atlanta air pressed against his navy blue janitor uniform as he pushed his yellow cleaning cart across the Walmart parking lot. At 38, Marcus had perfected the art of being invisible. People looked through him, not at him. He was the guy who cleaned up spills in aisle 7, the one who emptied trash cans while families loaded groceries into minivans, the shadow that kept the floors shining while everyone else lived their lives. His worn work boots scraped against the hot asphalt as he headed toward a spill near the entrance. The Georgia sun beat down mercilessly, making the black pavement shimmer with heat waves. Sweat already dampened the back of his uniform, even though his shift had only started an hour ago. Marcus's calloused hands gripped the mop handle, hands that had once held a college acceptance letter before his girlfriend got pregnant senior year. Hands that had changed countless diapers, braided his daughter's hair for school pictures, and worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over their heads after Shanice walked out when Zoe was 2. Invisible, he whispered to himself, squeezing the mop into the yellow bucket. Just stay invisible, finish your shift, pick up Zoe from school. Algier, but the universe had other plans. The screech of expensive tires cut through the parking lot's ambient noise. Marcus looked up to see a gleaming black Bentley swerve erratically, jumping the concrete barrier between parking sections. The luxury car scraped against a light post with a sickening metallic shriek before coming to a jerking stop 20 feet from where he stood. For a moment, everything went silent except for the ticking of the cooling engine and Marcus's own heartbeat pounding in his ears. The driver's door flew open, and a woman stumbled out. Even from a distance, Marcus could see she didn't belong in this Walmart parking lot. Her tailored beige suit probably cost more than his monthly rent. Blonde hair pulled back in an elegant bun, heels that clicked against the pavement like a countdown timer. But it was her face that stopped him cold, pale, tear-streaked, eyes wild with something that looked like pure desperation. She pressed one hand against the Bentley's hood to steady herself, the other clutching a cell phone so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Her chest heaved with ragged breaths that even from 20 feet away looked painful. Marcus glanced around. A small crowd was beginning to form near the store entrance. Suburban shoppers with carts, teenagers on their phones, an elderly couple pointing. Everyone watching, no one helping. He knew that feeling. Being watched but not seen. Being there but not mattering. His feet moved before his brain caught up. He left his cleaning cart and walked toward the woman, his yellow rubber gloves still dripping soapy water onto the hot asphalt. "Ma'am?" His deep voice was gentle, the same tone he used when Zoe woke up from nightmares. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The woman's head snapped up, and Marcus found himself looking into the most striking green eyes he'd ever seen, and they were absolutely shattered with grief. She started. Then her knees buckled. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground, his strong arms steadying her weight. Up close, he could see the expensive fabric of her suit, smell the faint scent of jasmine perfume mixed with fear sweat, feel how badly she was shaking. Whoa, I got you," he said, helping her lean against the Bentley. "Just breathe. You're okay." "I'm not okay," she gasped, and her voice cracked like breaking glass. "Nothing is okay. My daughter, my baby girl, she's dying." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He knew that fear. Every parent's worst nightmare spoken out loud in a Walmart parking lot on a Tuesday afternoon. "What happened?" he asked, still supporting her with one hand while pulling off his gloves with the other. The woman's breath came in sharp, painful bursts. "Leukemia. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She's 8 years old and the doctors say she has maybe 3 months without a bone marrow transplant." Her expensive phone slipped from her trembling fingers and clattered onto the asphalt. She didn't even notice. "I'm so sorry," Marcus said quietly, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. At 8, Zoe had gotten pneumonia, and those 4 days in the hospital had aged him 10 years. He couldn't imagine what this woman was going through. "I've tested everyone," the woman continued, words spilling out like a dam had broken. Every family member, every distant relative, every person in our social circle. No matches, not a single match. And I'm running out of time. Her voice broke completely, dissolving into sobs that shook her whole body. Marcus looked around helplessly. The crowd had grown larger. People were filming on their phones now, because that's what people did. They watched tragedy like it was entertainment. "Hey," Marcus said firmly, positioning himself between the woman and the crowd, blocking their view. "Look at me. What's your name?" She blinked, surprised by the direct question. "Victoria. Victoria Ashford." "Okay, Victoria, I'm Marcus, and I need you to breathe with me, all right? In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Can you do that?" She nodded, and they breathed together, a janitor and a billionaire in a Walmart parking lot, the most unlikely pair in Atlanta. After a minute, Victoria's breathing steadied. Her green eyes focused on Marcus's face, really seeing him for the first time. "You're kind," she said softly, wonder in her voice as if kindness was something rare in her world. "You stopped. Everyone else just watched." Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. "Anyone would." "No," Victoria said with absolute certainty. "They wouldn't. They didn't." She looked down at her trembling hands. "I was on my way to the hospital. I got another call from Dr. Patterson, another failed match from the registry. I lost it. Pulled off the highway, ended up here. Crashed into that pole like my whole life is crashing down." The afternoon sun glinted off the Bentley's scratched paint. Marcus could see his own reflection in the tinted window. His worn uniform, his tired face. A man who looked every day of his 38 years. "Your daughter," he said. "What's her name?" "Emma." Victoria's face transformed when she said it, grief mixing with fierce love. "Emma Claire Ashford. She loves horses and Taylor Swift, and reading fantasy novels under her covers with a flashlight. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up." The present tense hurt. Wants to be, not wanted to be. Still fighting. Still hoping. "She sounds amazing," Marcus said. "She is." Victoria pressed her palms against her eyes. "And I'm losing her. I have all the money in the world. My family built half of Atlanta's skyline, but I can't buy what she needs. I can't save my own child." Something in the way she said it resonated with Marcus. He knew what it was like to be powerless, to have your hands tied while your child needed you. When Zoe had needed new glasses and he'd been $50 short, he'd sold his own laptop. When she'd wanted to join the school choir but needed the uniform, he'd skipped meals for a week. Different circumstances, same desperate love. "The registry," Victoria continued, wiping her eyes with shaking fingers. "We've been on every list, sent out thousands of testing kits, put up billboards across 3 states, nothing. The doctors say her specific genetic markers are incredibly rare. She needs someone with—" She stopped mid-sentence, staring at Marcus with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "What?" he asked. Victoria straightened up, still leaning against the Bentley but something shifting in her posture. "Your family. Do you have siblings?" Marcus blinked at the sudden question. Yeah. 3 brothers, 2 sisters, big family." "And your parents?" "Dad passed 5 years ago. Mom's in a nursing home, Alzheimer's." "I'm sorry," Victoria said, but her mind was clearly racing. "But your siblings, are they healthy? Any genetic disorders?" "No, everyone's healthy. Why?" "Marcus." Victoria grabbed his arm with surprising strength, her green eyes blazing with sudden, desperate hope. "I need you to understand what I'm about to say. Emma's genetic markers, the specific HLA typing she needs, it's most common in people with West African ancestry. The doctors told me someone from a large family with that heritage would have the highest probability of being a match." The pieces clicked together in Marcus's head and he took a step back. "You want me to get tested?" he said slowly. "Yes," Victoria breathed. "Yes, please. I know this is insane. I know I crashed my car and I'm a complete stranger and I'm asking something enormous, but please—" "Okay," Marcus interrupted. Victoria froze. Okay? Yeah, okay. I'll get tested. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Because to Marcus it was. A child was dying. A mother was desperate. He had something that might help. The math was simple. Victoria's eyes filled with fresh tears, but these were different. You will? I have a daughter, Marcus said quietly. She's 10. If Zoe needed help and someone could give it, I'd want them to say yes. He pulled his phone from his pocket, a beat-up Android with a cracked screen. Tell me where I need to go. For a long moment, Victoria just stared at him, this janitor in a stained uniform with rubber gloves hanging from his pocket, offering her dying daughter a chance without asking for anything in return. Then she did something that made the growing crowd gasp. Victoria Ashford, heiress to the Ashford real estate empire, a woman whose net worth had been featured in Forbes magazine, dropped to her knees on the hot Walmart parking lot pavement. Marcus Williams, she said, her voice ringing clear despite the tears streaming down her face. If you are a match, if you save my daughter's life, I will give you anything. Anything you want. Money, a house, a car. Name it and it's yours. Marcus stared down at this elegant woman kneeling in front of him, her expensive suit getting dirty, her perfect composure completely shattered. Behind them, he could hear people murmuring, phones still recording. Ma'am, Victoria, you don't have to. I need you to understand. Victoria cut him off, her hands clasped in front of her like she was praying. If you save Emma, there is nothing I won't do. Nothing. You want $1 million? It's yours. 10 million? Done. You want a job, a career, an education, anything in my power to give, I will give it. Marcus felt uncomfortable with every word. This wasn't why he'd agreed. This wasn't how things should work. Please stand up, he said gently, reaching down to help her. You don't need to do this. But Victoria didn't move. If anything, she pressed further forward, her voice dropping to something raw and broken. Then I'm begging you, not as someone with money, but as a mother. If you're a match, if the transplant works, if you save my little girl. She took a shuddering breath, and what came next was something that made the entire parking lot go silent. Please, Marcus Williams. Please be my husband. The world stopped. Marcus's hand, extended to help her up, froze in midair. His brain struggled to process what he'd just heard. What? The word came out barely above a whisper. Marry me, Victoria said, and she wasn't joking. Her green eyes locked onto his with desperate sincerity. If you're a match and Emma survives, marry me. Not for love. I'm not asking for that. But Emma will need stability. She'll need someone good in her life. Someone real. You stopped when no one else did. You said yes when you had every reason to say no. That's the kind of person I want my daughter to know. That's the kind of man I want in her life. The crowd was murmuring loudly now. Someone shouted, "Is this real?" Another voice, "She's crazy." A teenage girl. Oh my God, I'm literally filming this. Marcus looked down at Victoria Ashford, this woman in her designer suit, kneeling on dirty asphalt, offering him everything she had and asking for the most impossible thing in return. His mind raced. This was insane. This was a stranger. This violated every logical thought he'd ever had. But when he looked at her face, he didn't see money or status or anything except one thing, a mother who would do absolutely anything to save her child. He knew that feeling. Get up, Marcus said quietly. Please. Victoria rose slowly, her knees marked with dirt, her perfect composure completely destroyed. She stood before him, waiting for an answer that would change everything. Marcus took a breath. Behind him, his cleaning cart sat abandoned. His mop was probably drying out in the Georgia heat. His manager would be wondering where he was. Let's start with the test, he finally said. We'll figure out the rest if it comes to that. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. And in that moment, In a Walmart parking lot in Atlanta, two impossible paths began to converge. 3 days after the parking lot encounter, Marcus sat in his daughter's bedroom at 2 in the morning, watching Zoe sleep and wondering if he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. The small apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the old refrigerator in the kitchen and the occasional car passing on the street below. Zoe's nightlight, a pink unicorn she'd had since she was 5, cast soft shadows across walls covered with her drawings. A spelling test with a gold star. A photo of Marcus and Zoe at Stone Mountain, both of them grinning despite the 90-degree heat. This was his world. Small, simple, real. His phone buzzed on Zoe's dresser. Another text from Victoria Ashford, the 7th one today. Dr. Patterson says results should be ready by morning. I can't sleep, I can't breathe. Thank you for doing this. Whatever happens, thank you. Marcus had saved her number as Victoria A. When his co-worker Deshaun had asked who was blowing up his phone during their shift, Marcus had said it was about a cleaning job, which wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't exactly the truth either. The truth was complicated. The truth was that 2 days ago, Marcus had walked into Emory University Hospital's transplant center with Victoria Ashford, where a team of doctors had drawn his blood, swabbed his cheek, and explained the complex science of HLA matching, while Victoria gripped the arms of her chair so hard he thought she might break them. The truth was that Victoria had offered to pay him $5,000 just for getting tested, and Marcus had refused, which had made her cry in the hospital parking garage. The truth was that Marcus hadn't told anyone, not his siblings, not his best friend Jerome, and definitely not Zoe, about any of this. Because how do you explain to your 10-year-old daughter that a stranger asked you to marry her? Zoe shifted in her sleep, her braids splayed across her pillow. Marcus reached over and gently tucked her blanket around her shoulders. She mumbled something about horses and settled back into deep sleep. His phone buzzed again. I'm sorry. I know it's late. I just keep thinking about what you said in the parking lot, about doing this because you have a daughter. Emma asked about you. She wants to meet the nice man who's helping me. I don't know what to tell her. Marcus's thumbs hovered over the keyboard. What do you say to that? He'd been a janitor for 6 years, invisible to most people, and now a dying 8-year-old girl knew his name. Tell her I'm rooting for her, he typed back. And try to get some sleep. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. If you're a match, my offer stands. I meant every word. I know how it sounded, Marcus. Crazy rich woman proposes to janitor in Walmart parking lot. I've seen the videos online. Yes, they're everywhere. People are calling me desperate, insane, a publicity stunt. But I don't care what they think, I care about Emma. And something in my gut tells me you're the answer to a prayer I've been screaming for months. Marcus closed his eyes. The weight of those words pressed against his chest like a physical thing. His phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. Marcus glanced at Zoe to make sure she was still asleep, then slipped out of her room and into the tiny living room. He answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? I'm sorry. Victoria's voice came through, tight with stress. I know it's 2 in the morning. I'm sitting in Emma's hospital room and she's sleeping and I can't stop thinking about tomorrow. Marcus could hear the beeping of hospital monitors in the background, that steady rhythm that meant someone was fighting to stay alive. It's okay, he said quietly, sitting down on his threadbare couch. You don't have to apologize. I do, though. Victoria took a shaky breath. I asked you to marry me, Marcus. I didn't even ask your last name first. I didn't ask if you were married, if you had a family, if you had a life that my insane request would destroy. I saw a good man and I grabbed onto him like a drowning person grabbing a lifeline. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Through his apartment window, he could see Atlanta's skyline in the distance, all those buildings lit up against the night sky, buildings that Victoria's family probably owned. Are you married? Victoria asked into the silence. I realized I never actually asked. No, Was engaged once, a long time ago. Didn't work out. The mother of your daughter? Yeah. Shanice left when Zoe was 2. Haven't heard from her in 8 years. Marcus rubbed his face with his free hand. It's just me and Zoe. Has been for a long time. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're good. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. He paused. What about you? Emma's father? Victoria's laugh was bitter. Richard. We divorced 3 years ago. He sends a check every month and takes Emma for 2 weekends a year. When she got sick, he visited once, cried, said he couldn't handle it, and flew to his house in Monaco. I haven't seen him since. That's rough. It clarified things. Victoria's voice hardened. When your child is dying, you learn who people really are. Richard is weak. My parents suggested I prepare myself for Emma's death and start planning for another child. My business partners advised me to step back from the company because grief is bad for my image. Everyone in my world had advice, but nobody had solutions. Nobody was willing to do the hard things. And then you crashed your car in a Walmart parking lot. And then I found you. Victoria's voice softened. You didn't hesitate, Marcus. I offered you money and you looked uncomfortable. I got on my knees and you told me to stand up. You said yes because somewhere another father might need someone to say yes for his daughter. That's not something money can buy. That's character. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. His whole life people had looked through him. Now this woman was seeing things in him he wasn't sure were really there. The test results, Victoria continued, and he could hear the fear creeping back into her voice. What if you're not a match? What if this was just another dead end? Then we deal with it, Marcus said simply. But don't give up before you know. How are you so calm? I'm not. Marcus looked toward Zoe's bedroom door. I'm terrified, but falling apart doesn't help anybody. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 strangers connected by a phone line and a desperate hope, listening to each other breathe. Marcus? Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. If you are a match, if the transplant works, I meant what I said, about all of it. The marriage proposal. Yes, no hesitation. I know how it sounds, but I'm not looking for romance or love or any of that. I'm looking for someone good, someone real. Someone Emma can count on when everything else in her life has fallen apart. You have a daughter, you understand? I'm not asking you to love me. I'm asking you to help me give Emma a chance at life, and then maybe stay, be part of her recovery. Show her what a good man looks like. Marcus's heart pounded. And if I say no to the marriage but yes to the transplant? Then I'll respect that and be forever grateful. Victoria paused. But I'm asking for both. Not because I expect it, but because I believe sometimes God puts people in our path exactly when we need them. And Emma needs more than my money. She needs what you have, that goodness that made you stop when everyone else kept walking. Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with another call. Dr. Patterson's number flashed on the screen. At 2:30 in the morning. Victoria, Marcus said, his mouth suddenly dry. The doctor's calling me right now. He heard her sharp intake of breath. Answer it, please. And Marcus, no matter what he says, thank you. Marcus switched calls, his hand trembling slightly. Mr. Williams? Dr. Patterson's voice was professional, but Marcus could hear something underneath it. Excitement, maybe. Or hope. Yes, sir. I know it's early, but the lab rushed the results. I wanted to call you before I called Mrs. Ashford. Dr. Patterson paused, and in that pause, Marcus's entire world balanced on a knife's edge. Mr. Williams, you're a 10 out of 10 match. Marcus's breath stopped. I've been doing this for 23 years, Dr. Patterson continued, his professional composure cracking with emotion, and I've never seen a match this perfect outside of identical twins. Your HLA markers align with Emma's in ways that frankly seem miraculous. You're not just a match, Mr. Williams. You're the best possible match. Marcus sat down hard on his couch. His vision blurred, his hands shook. "Are you sure?" he whispered. "Completely certain. We ran the tests 3 times because the compatibility was so extraordinary." Dr. Patterson's voice gentled. "Mr. Williams, you can save this little girl's life. If you're still willing, we'd like to schedule the donation procedure as soon as possible. Every day matters." Marcus looked around his small apartment, the place he'd fought so hard to keep, the home he'd built for Zoe, the life he knew. Simple, predictable, safe, and in one moment, all of it was about to change. "When do we start?" Marcus asked. "I'll call Mrs. Ashford now and we'll coordinate. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for giving Emma a fighting chance." They hung up. Marcus sat in the dark, alone, his phone clutched in his hand. He was a match, a perfect match. He could save Emma Ashford's life, and Victoria would want an answer about the rest. His phone rang again. Victoria, calling back. He answered. "Marcus." Her voice was wrecked with tears. "Dr. Patterson just called me. He said I'm a match." Marcus confirmed quietly. Victoria sobbed, raw, broken sounds of relief and joy and overwhelming emotion. In the background he could hear her moving, probably stepping out of Emma's room so she wouldn't wake her daughter. "Thank you," she gasped between sobs. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're saving her. You're saving my baby." "When does it happen?" "Dr. Patterson wants to schedule the donation for next week. They need to prep Emma, run more tests on you, coordinate the procedure." Victoria tried to steady her breathing. "Marcus, I know I'm asking too much. I know I'm asking for everything, but I need to know." "Ask me after," Marcus interrupted gently. "After the transplant, after Emma's recovering, after we're not in crisis mode. Then ask me about the rest." "You're not saying no. I'm not saying yes either." Marcus stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the city. "I'm saying let's save your daughter first, let's make sure she lives, then we'll figure out what comes next." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "That's fair. That's more than fair." She took a shaky breath. "Can I ask you something, though?" "Yeah." "Why are you doing this? And don't say it's because you have a daughter. I need to know what's really in your heart." Marcus thought about it. Really thought about it. "When Zoe was 8, he finally said. Same age as Emma, she got really sick. Pneumonia. High fever, couldn't breathe right. I carried her into the ER and I didn't have insurance. The nurse at the desk looked at me like I was a problem to solve, not a father with a dying kid. But then this doctor came out, Dr. Reyes, and he took one look at Zoe and said, 'Bring her back. We'll figure out the money later.'" Marcus's voice thickened with emotion. "He saved her life. And when I tried to thank him, tried to figure out how I'd ever pay him back, you know what he said? He said, 'Just pay it forward. Someday someone will need you to say yes when it matters. That's how you thank me.'" Silence on the other end of the line. "Emma needs me to say yes," Marcus continued quietly. "That's why I'm doing this. Not for money, not for marriage, not for any of that. I'm doing it because Dr. Reyes taught me that sometimes the only thing standing between someone and death is another person willing to help." "You're a good man, Marcus Williams," Victoria whispered. "I'm just a man," he corrected, "trying to do the right thing." "Then let me ask you this. When the time comes when Emma's well, will you at least consider it? Consider being part of her life in some way? Not as an obligation, but because maybe you'd want to know the girl you saved?" Marcus looked toward Zoe's bedroom door. His daughter, his world, his reason for everything. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'd want to know her. That's all I'm asking for right now. Just stay open to possibility." They said goodbye. Marcus stood at the window until the sun started to rise over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. In a few hours, he'd have to wake Zoe up for school. Tell her something. Eventually, he'd have to explain why Daddy needed to take time off work, why he was going to the hospital, why everything was about to change. But for now, in the quiet before dawn, Marcus let himself feel the weight and wonder of what was coming. He was going to save a little girl's life, and somewhere in that act he might just discover who he was really meant to be. 6 weeks after the transplant, Marcus Williams stood in the doorway of Emma Ashford's hospital room and watched a miracle laugh. The little girl sat cross-legged on her bed, bald head covered with a bright purple beanie decorated with sparkly horses, surrounded by art supplies and stuffed animals. Her skin had color again. Her eyes, the same striking green as her mother's, were bright with life instead of dulled by pain. She was drawing something with intense concentration, her tongue sticking out slightly the way Zoe did when she focused. "You gonna stand there all day, or you gonna come in?" Emma asked without looking up from her drawing. Marcus smiled. In the 6 weeks since the transplant, he'd visited Emma 17 times. The first visit had been awkward. What do you say to an 8-year-old girl whose life you saved? But Emma had made it easy. She'd looked at him seriously and said, "Thank you for sharing your bone marrow. Mom says it's like you gave me a second chance at life. That's pretty cool." Now she teased him like they'd known each other forever. "What are you working on?" Marcus asked, walking into the room and sitting in the chair beside her bed, the same chair Victoria had practically lived in for the past month and a half. "A picture for Zoe," Emma said, finally looking up. "Is she really coming to visit today?" "Should be here in about an hour. Her aunt's bringing her after school." Emma's whole face lit up. "Finally, I've been wanting to meet her forever. You talk about her all the time." "Do not." "Do too." Emma grinned. "Zoe did this. Zoe said that. Zoe's so smart. Zoe's so funny. You're like obsessed with your daughter, Marcus. It's actually really sweet." Marcus felt his chest tighten with emotion. Sweet. This little girl who'd been dying 6 weeks ago thought his love for his daughter was sweet. "Where's your mom?" he asked, changing the subject. "Meeting with Dr. Patterson about my discharge plan." "Marcus." Emma set down her markers and looked at him with an intensity that seemed too old for 8. "Can I ask you something serious?" "Of course." "Are you going to marry my mom?" Marcus had been expecting this question, but it still hit him like a punch. "Did she tell you about that?" "Not exactly, but I heard her on the phone with Grandma last week. Grandma was yelling about how Mom was throwing herself at the help, and Mom said some words I'm not supposed to repeat." Emma picked at her blanket. "Is it true? Did she really ask you to marry her in a Walmart parking lot?" Marcus sighed. "Yeah, she did." "That's so weird." Emma thought about it for a moment. "But also kind of romantic? Like in the movies where people do crazy things because they're desperate?" "Your mom loves you very much," Marcus said carefully. "She was willing to do anything to save you." "I know. That's why I want to ask you something." Emma leaned forward, her small face serious. "Do you like her? Like, really like her? Or are you just being nice because of the whole bone marrow thing?" It was such a direct question that Marcus almost laughed. But Emma's eyes were genuinely concerned, so he considered his answer carefully. The truth was, over the past 6 weeks, Victoria Ashford had surprised him. She wasn't what he'd expected. Yes, she was wealthy and elegant and lived in a world he barely understood. But she was also funny in a dry, sarcastic way. She brought him coffee every morning during Emma's treatment. Black, 2 sugars, exactly how he liked it. She asked about Zoe constantly, remembered details about his life, and treated him like an equal even though she could probably buy his entire neighborhood without blinking. More than that, she'd let him see her fall apart. The night Emma's fever spiked during recovery, Victoria had gripped his hand so hard she'd left marks, tears streaming down her face as she whispered prayers Marcus wasn't sure she believed in. When Emma took her first walk down the hospital corridor, Victoria had cried again, this time with joy so pure it had made Marcus's own eyes water. He'd seen her as a mother, not just a billionaire. and what he'd seen had changed something in him. "I think your mom is one of the strongest, bravest people I've ever met," Marcus said honestly. "And yeah, I like her. She's a good person." "But do you like her?" Emma pressed, and despite the seriousness of the conversation, Marcus couldn't help but smile at the playground terminology. "Emma, because she likes you," Emma interrupted. "I can tell. She smiles different when you're here. And she's always making sure she looks nice before you visit. And last week when you couldn't come because Zoe was sick, Mom was super disappointed even though she pretended she wasn't." Marcus felt something flutter in his chest. Hope, maybe, or possibility or fear. He wasn't sure which. "Your mom and I are friends," he said. "Good friends. But marriage is complicated, Emma. It's not like the movies." "I know that." Emma rolled her eyes. "I'm 8, not stupid. I know you guys barely know each other. I know Mom is rich and you're not. I know this whole thing is super weird." She paused. "But you make her happy, Marcus. Like, actually happy. Not fake happy like she was with Dad." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened and Victoria walked in, followed by Dr. Patterson. She looked tired but beautiful in dark jeans and a soft blue sweater, so different from the woman in the destroyed suit he'd met in a parking lot. "Marcus, you're early," Victoria said, and Emma was right. Her whole face did light up differently when she saw him. "Wanted to see how the morning tests went," Marcus said, standing up. "All excellent, Dr. Ondi," Patterson announced, his warm smile crinkling his dark skin around his eyes. "Emma, your counts are stable. Your body is accepting the transplant beautifully, and if everything continues on this trajectory, we're looking at discharge in 1 week." Emma squealed and threw her arms up. "Yes, I can finally go home." Victoria's eyes filled with tears, the happy kind this time. She pressed her hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. Marcus watched her try to hold it together, saw the moment she couldn't, and without thinking he crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. Victoria collapsed against him, sobbing into his shoulder. 6 weeks of fear and hope and terror and relief all pouring out at once. Marcus held her, his hand gentle against her back while Dr. Patterson smiled knowingly, and Emma watched with an expression far too knowing for an 8-year-old. "She's going to be okay," Marcus whispered into Victoria's hair. "You did it. She's going to be okay." "We did it," Victoria corrected, pulling back to look at him with those devastating green eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you, Marcus. Not just the transplant, all of it. You've been here almost every day. You've held my hand. You've let me fall apart. You've made Emma laugh when she was in pain. You've been—" She trailed off, but the end of that sentence hung in the air between them. "Everything." Dr. Patterson cleared his throat diplomatically. "I'll give you all some privacy. Emma, I'll see you tomorrow for your final tests before discharge." He winked at her and left. Emma looked between Marcus and her mother with barely contained excitement. "So are you guys going to talk about it now? The marriage thing?" "Emma." Victoria's face flushed pink. "What? It's been 6 weeks. The transplant worked. Marcus has been here like every single day. When are you going to ask him again?" Marcus couldn't help but laugh at Emma's complete lack of subtlety. Victoria looked mortified. "Sweetheart," Victoria started. "Marcus and I—" "Mom, he likes you too," Emma interrupted. "I asked him." "You what?" Victoria's eyes went wide. "Someone had to." Emma crossed her arms. "You guys just keep looking at each other all sad and weird and nobody saying anything." Marcus and Victoria stared at each other, caught, exposed, vulnerable. "Emma," Marcus said gently, "could you give me and your mom a few minutes alone?" Emma's eyes went even wider. "Oh my gosh, is this happening? Are you going to propose back? Should I leave? I should leave." She scrambled off the bed, grabbed her sketch pad, and headed for the door. "I'll be in the playroom. Take your time. But not too much time because Zoe's coming soon and I want to tell her everything." She disappeared in a whirl of purple beanie and excited energy. The door closed. Silence. Victoria laughed nervously. I'm sorry, she's been persistent about this. She's worried about you, Marcus said. She shouldn't be. I'm fine. Victoria. Marcus stepped closer. You haven't been fine since the day I met you. Victoria's breath caught. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. Marcus ran a hand over his face. We should talk about this. Really talk about it. The proposal, Victoria said quietly. The proposal. Victoria walked to the window, looking out at Atlanta's skyline. I meant it, you know. Every word I said in that parking lot. If you saved Emma, which you did, I would give you anything, including marriage. I don't want your money, Victoria. I know. She turned to face him. You've made that abundantly clear. You won't let me pay you. You won't let me buy you anything. You won't even let me cover your gas money for all these visits. You're possibly the most stubborn man I've ever met. Marcus smiled slightly. That's what Zoe says. She's a smart kid. Victoria took a breath. So if you don't want my money, what do you want, Marcus? Because I'm still asking. Maybe not in a Walmart parking lot this time. Maybe with a little more dignity. But I'm asking. Why? Marcus moved closer. Be honest. Why do you really want to marry me? Victoria held his gaze. At first, because I was desperate and you were good and I wanted goodness in Emma's life. But now? She shook her head. Now it's different. These past 6 weeks, you've been here. Not because you had to be. Not because I paid you, but because you cared. You brought Emma books. You talked to her about horses and Taylor Swift even though you clearly knew nothing about either. You made me laugh on days I thought I'd never laugh again. You treated me like Victoria, not Victoria Ashford, billionaire heiress. Do you know how rare that is? You deserve to be treated like a person, Marcus said simply. See, that right there. Victoria stepped closer. You say things like that like they're obvious, but they're not. Not in my world. In my world, people want things from me. Money, connections, opportunities. But you just wanted to help a dying girl. And somehow in the process of saving my daughter, you reminded me what it feels like to be seen. Marcus's heart pounded. Victoria, I'm not asking you to love me, Victoria continued, her voice steady now. I'm not even asking you to pretend. I'm asking if you'd consider building something real with me, taking time, getting to know each other properly. And if something grows from that, then maybe we could give Emma the stable family she deserves. Give Zoe a bigger world than she has now. Give ourselves a chance at something neither of us expected. Marcus thought about his apartment, his job, his simple, predictable life. Then he thought about Emma's laugh, Victoria's smile, the way it felt to walk into this hospital room every day and feel like he mattered. He thought about Zoe asking him last night, Daddy, why are you so happy lately? I have conditions, Marcus said finally. Hope flared in Victoria's eyes. Okay. First, I keep my job, at least for now. I need to know I'm standing on my own feet. Done. Second, we do this slow, real slow. Dating, getting to know each other, no rushing. Emma and Zoe need time to adjust to each other. We need time to figure out if this is real or just crisis bonding. Absolutely. What else? Third, if we do this, we do it as equals. I don't care about your money. I care about partnership, respect, honesty. I won't be some charity case you married out of gratitude. Victoria crossed the remaining distance between them and took his hands. Marcus Williams, you are the furthest thing from a charity case. You saved my daughter's life. You've shown me what integrity looks like. You've reminded me that good men still exist. If anything, I'm worried I'm not good enough for you. Marcus looked down at their joined hands, hers soft and elegant, his rough and calloused. Different worlds, different lives. But somehow, in this moment, they fit. Ask me, he said quietly. Victoria's breath caught. What? Ask me again. The right way this time. Not on your knees in a parking lot. Not out of desperation. Ask me because you want to, not because you have to. Tears slipped down Victoria's cheeks, but she was smiling. Marcus Williams, would you consider taking a chance on me? On us? Would you think about building a life together? Slowly, carefully, with no guarantees except that I promise to respect you, value you, and do everything in my power to make you happy? Marcus thought about Dr. Reyes. Pay it forward. Say yes when it matters. This mattered. Yeah, Marcus said, his own voice thick with emotion. Yeah, I'll take a chance on us. Victoria laughed, a sound of pure joy, and threw her arms around his neck. Marcus caught her, held her, and for the first time in 6 weeks, let himself imagine what the future might actually look like. The door burst open. I knew it! Emma shrieked, jumping up and down. Zoe, get in here! They're together! I called it! Zoe walked in behind Emma, looking confused, with Marcus's sister Denise right behind her. Daddy? What's going on? Marcus and Victoria pulled apart, both laughing. Marcus held out his hand to his daughter. Zoe, baby, come here. There's some people I want you to meet properly. 3 months later. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Victoria's, their home, as Marcus helped Emma with her homework at the kitchen table. Zoe sat across from her, working on her own assignments, occasionally arguing with Emma about the correct answer to a math problem. Victoria walked in from her home office, stopping in the doorway to watch the scene. Marcus looked up and caught her eye, smiling that smile that still made her heart skip. They weren't married yet. They'd moved carefully, intentionally. Marcus had kept his job, though he'd cut back his hours. Zoe and Emma had become inseparable, sisters in everything but blood. Family dinners had become sacred. Movie nights were mandatory. They were building something real, something solid, something that felt like home. The wedding was planned for next spring. Small, intimate, real. Not because Victoria was desperate, not because Marcus felt obligated, but because somewhere between a Walmart parking lot and a hospital room, they'd found something neither of them knew they were looking for. Emma looked up from her homework. Marcus, can you help me with number 7? Not Mr. Williams, not Mom's boyfriend, just Marcus. And when Zoe reached over to steal a chip from Emma's snack bowl, leading to a laughing argument about sharing, Marcus caught Victoria's eye again. This is good, he mouthed. Victoria smiled, tears in her eyes, the happy kind. This is everything, she mouthed back. Because sometimes miracles happen in parking lots. Sometimes strangers become family. Sometimes saying yes to helping someone changes absolutely everything. And sometimes the bravest thing a billionaire can do is fall to her knees and ask for help. And sometimes the bravest thing a janitor can do is say yes, not to money or status or anything else except the chance to save a life and maybe, just maybe, find his own in the process. The end.